50 mechanics had tried and failed. 50 men walked away defeated by a truck that died under heat and mocked every diagnostic tool thrown at it. Then Mara Ruiz stepped into that hostile dealership, and the owner smiled, the kind of smile that promised humiliation. He gave her 1 hour. 1 hour on a live stream watched by thousands. 1 hour to prove she belonged in a world that wanted her gone. What he didn't know was that she had already seen something in the data, something invisible, something that would shatter his arrogance and expose the truth he tried to bury. Subscribe right now and tell me in the comments where you're watching this from, because what happens next will make you believe in justice again. The sedan's engine coughed once, then smoothed. Mara Ruiz tightened the last vacuum line and wiped her hands on a rag already stained with oil. The oscilloscope on her cart displayed steady waveforms, proof the misfire was gone. "Still playing with your little TV?" a voice called from the next bay. She glanced over. 2 younger techs leaned against a toolbox, grinning. One pointed at her scope. "It's faster than throwing parts at it," Mara said. "Sure it is," the other tech said. "When you gonna fix cars instead of staring at squiggles?" Doc Blevins stood 3 bays down, arms crossed. His gray coveralls bore decades of grease. He watched her but said nothing. His silence felt heavier than the laughter. Mara closed the hood and started the sedan. The engine purred. She logged the repair on her tablet and moved the car to the pickup lane. Her phone buzzed with a text from her daughter asking about dinner. She typed a quick reply. The shop floor hummed with air tools and radio chatter. Tino Alvarez rolled a tire past her bay. He was young, maybe 24, with eager eyes that tracked every senior tech for approval. He nodded at her scope. "That thing really work?" Tino asked. "Every time," Mara said. "Caleb says real mechanics use their ears." She did not answer. Caleb Hodge owned this dealership, and 3 others. His voice carried through concrete walls. The service lane door rolled up with a metallic groan. Sunlight flooded the bay. A black SUV entered, followed by 2 men in polo shirts carrying a camera. Caleb walked behind them, his smile wide and white. The camera's red light blinked. "Gather up, boys," Caleb said. "We got ourselves a situation." Techs drifted closer. Jules Price, the service writer, appeared from the office with a clipboard. Jules looked tired, the kind of tired that came from too many bills and not enough sleep. The camera panned across the shop. Mara stayed at her cart, but she felt the lens find her. Caleb's smile sharpened. "Today's the day we separate the real mechanics from the pretenders," he said. A flatbed truck backed into the bay. Its cargo bed held a late-model performance pickup, cherry red with chrome accents. The engine sat silent under the hood. Darla Kent's company logo adorned the door. "This beauty," Caleb said, "has stumped 50 mechanics. 50. Runs fine cold, dies under load when hot. Nobody can fix it." The camera zoomed on the truck. Comments scrolled across a wall-mounted screen. Most were crude jokes about women and wrenches. "Who wants to try?" Caleb asked. Silence. Doc examined his fingernails. Tino studied the floor. Mara felt anger rise in her chest. She swallowed it. "What about our diagnostic expert?" Caleb said. He pointed at Mara. "You got that fancy scope. Should be easy, right?" The techs turned to watch. Mara set down her rag. She walked toward the red truck, her boots echoing on concrete. "I'd need time," she said, "and access to everything." "You got 1 hour," Caleb said, "and we're live streaming the whole thing. Show the world what you can do." Jules stepped forward. "Caleb, that's not—" "1 hour," Caleb said. His smile never moved. "Starting now." The camera locked on Mara's face. She saw herself on the wall screen, surrounded by mocking comments. Her jaw tightened. She had walked into worse rooms than this. "I'll need the service history," she said. Jules handed her a slim folder. The work order listed part numbers and dates. Coils, injectors, sensors. 50 attempts meant 50 guesses. Nobody had diagnosed anything. "Clock's ticking," Caleb said. Mara opened the truck's hood. The engine gleamed, almost too clean. Someone had replaced everything visible. She pulled her scope closer and began connecting leads. The crowd pressed in behind her. "This should be good," someone whispered. The timer on the wall screen started counting down. 59 minutes, 58, 57. Jules handed Mara the work order. Names filled the margin, each one crossed out. 50 techs, 50 failures. Tino wheeled over a cart stacked with replaced parts. New coils still in boxes. Fuel injectors with tags attached. "They tried everything," Tino said. Mara scanned the list. No diagnostic notes, just parts and prayers. She connected her scope to the battery and ran ground tests. Numbers appeared on the screen. Everything measured clean. "What's she doing?" someone asked. "Wasting time," another voice said. She attached probes to the coil pack and fuel rail. The engine started on the first crank. It idled smooth, almost perfect. The waveforms danced across her scope in steady patterns. "Sounds fine to me," Doc said. Mara watched the coolant temperature climb. 60 degrees, 80, 100. The engine kept purring. Then she saw it. A faint shimmer in the RPM, barely visible. It appeared for half a second and vanished. "Did you see that?" she asked. "See what?" Tino said. The temperature gauge hit 130. The shimmer returned, stronger this time. The tack needle flickered. Mara leaned closer to her scope. "I need uninterrupted power," she said. "No breakers tripped, no interruptions." Caleb laughed. "What, you need perfect conditions? Real mechanics work, with what they got." "I need to correlate temperature and signal degradation," Mara said. "English, please," Caleb said. The wall screen filled with comments. Half called her incompetent. The other half used worse words. Jules stood near the breaker panel, eyes locked on Mara. "The problem only shows up hot," Mara said. "I need to watch it develop." She checked fuel trims. They looked normal. Compression was good. Injector pulse width stayed steady. But that shimmer haunted the edges of her data. 45 minutes left, Caleb said. Mara's hands moved across her equipment. She set up monitoring for crank position and cam timing. The correlation would tell her if something rotational was failing. The engine temperature climbed past 150 degrees. "This is boring," someone said. "When's she going to admit she can't do it?" The shimmer grew stronger. Mara felt sweat on her neck. She was close to something. She just needed time to see it clearly. Caleb reached past Mara and grabbed her oscilloscope. He held it up for the camera. The screen showed waveforms in green and yellow lines. "Look at this toy," he said. "This is what passes for diagnostics now?" Laughter rippled through the crowd. Caleb set the scope down hard enough to make the screen flicker. Mara's fingers curled into fists. She forced them open. "I need that," she said. "You need to fix the truck," Caleb said. "Not play with electronics." Doc stepped closer. He looked at the scope, then at Mara. "Timing issues don't come and go," he said. "They're either there or they're not." "Unless something's expanding with heat," Mara said. "Like what?" Doc asked. She did not answer yet. The data was not complete. Speculation would give them ammunition. She turned to Jules. "Can you get my scope back?" Jules looked at Caleb. The owner's smile dared her to try. Jules picked up the scope anyway and handed it to Mara. The room went quiet. "Thank you," Mara said. She reconnected the probes. Crank position sensor, cam position sensor. She added a heat sensor to track engine temperature in real time. The correlation would show if something mechanical was distorting under thermal expansion. 38 minutes, Caleb said. The engine temperature hit 170. Mara watched the crank signal. It stayed clean. The cam signal matched perfectly. Then the temperature crossed 180 degrees. The crank signal developed a tiny jitter. The cam stayed steady. There, Mara said. There what? Tino asked. Crank signal's degrading, cam's not. Doc frowned. He moved closer to the scope. The jitter was small, barely a pixel wide. But it was real. It appeared and disappeared in rhythm with heat cycles. Could be electrical noise, Doc said. Could be mechanical distortion, Mara said. The countdown clock pulsed on the wall. 35 minutes. The camera zoomed tight on her face. Sweat traced her temple. If I'm right, she said, I'll need access to the crank pulley. Caleb's smile vanished. You're not pulling that engine apart on my dime. The engine hummed at operating temperature. Mara ran the test again. The crank signal jittered while the cam stayed locked. She adjusted her scope settings to magnify the anomaly. The pattern repeated every time the coolant gauge climbed past 180 degrees. That's just electrical noise, someone said. Interference. Mara checked the ground straps. She verified the shielding on the sensor harness. Everything measured solid. The jitter persisted. It was not interference. It was real movement. The crank position sensor is seeing something rotate off index, she said. In English, Caleb said. Something at the crank is moving wrong when it gets hot. Doc shook his head. Metal doesn't flex enough to matter. Not on these tolerances. Metal with a hairline crack does, Mara said. The room fell quiet. Tino's eyes went wide. Jules gripped her clipboard tighter. Caleb's face darkened. You're saying the crank's cracked? Caleb asked. I'm saying something in the rotating assembly is failing under thermal expansion, Mara said. Could be the reluctor ring. That's impossible, Doc said. Those rings are forged steel. Forged steel can crack, Mara said. She pointed at the scope. Look at the trace. The signal wobbles in sync with temperature, not throttle position. That rules out fuel, air, and spark. It's mechanical. Prove it, Caleb said. I need to remove the crank pulley and inspect the reluctor ring. 29 minutes left. You don't have time for that. Then give me more time. I gave you an hour. That's what real mechanics get. The crowd muttered. Some agreed with Caleb. Others leaned toward curiosity. Doc stood with arms crossed, but his eyes stayed on the scope. He was thinking. If I pull the pulley and find nothing, Mara said, I walk out and never come back. If I find a crack, you apologize on camera. Caleb laughed. Deal. But when you're wrong, everyone sees that too. Mara rolled her tool cart closer. She selected a wrench and a pulley puller. Her hands shook slightly. She steadied them. The camera followed every movement. Get the lift, she said to Tino. The bay door opened again. Darla Kent walked in, her face pale and lined with exhaustion. She wore work boots and a company jacket that had seen too many 18-hour days. Her eyes found the red truck. How's it going? Darla asked. The room went silent. Even Caleb stopped smiling. Darla looked around at the crowd, then at the timer. 24 minutes left. I got 3 drivers waiting, Darla said. That truck was supposed to haul parts 2 hours ago. I got contracts on the line. Jules stepped forward. We're working on it. Working on it, Darla's voice cracked. I've been hearing that for 6 weeks. I can't lose another day. Mara felt the weight of Darla's words. This was not about winning an argument. A woman's business hung in the balance. Jobs depended on this truck running right. "I think I found the problem," Mara said. Darla turned to her. "You sure?" "Not yet, but I'm close." "How close?" "I need to inspect the crank pulley. If I'm right, we can fix it in 20 minutes. Darla looked at Caleb. "Let her work." "I am letting her work," Caleb said. "On camera, for everyone to see." "I don't care about cameras," Darla said. "I care about my truck." The crowd shifted. Darla's desperation changed the air. This was not entertainment anymore. It was someone's livelihood. Tino looked uncomfortable. Doc's jaw tightened. 19 minutes, Caleb said. His voice was softer now, but still stubborn. "I need to run one more test," Mara said. "Under load, while monitoring voltage and signal integrity." "Why?" Doc asked. "Because if the reluctor ring is cracked, the wobble will get worse under stress. The engine will throw misfire codes that don't match real combustion." "And if you're wrong?" Caleb asked. "Then you were right all along." Jules pulled up the dyno schedule on a tablet. "Bay 3 is free." Caleb waved his hand. "Fine, but the clock keeps running." Tino climbed into the truck's cab. Darla stood against the wall, her hands clasped together. The camera followed the truck as Tino drove it toward the dyno bay. 17 minutes, someone said. The dyno bay smelled like burned rubber and hot metal. Tino positioned the red truck on the rollers. Mara connected her scope and ran new leads to the crank and cam sensors. She clipped a voltage monitor to the battery. "Run it up to 3,000 RPM, she said. "Hold it there." Tino pressed the accelerator. The engine climbed smoothly. 2,000, 2,500, 3,000. The dyno rollers spun faster. Heat poured off the engine. Mara watched her scope. The traces stayed clean. Then the temperature gauge hit 190 degrees. The crank signal wobbled. A phantom misfire count appeared on the scanner. "Cylinder 4, the scanner said. "Check the coil," Doc said. Mara swapped the scope probe to cylinder 4. The coil fired perfectly. The injector pulsed on time. But the misfire code stayed. The engine shuddered once, then smoothed. "It's not cylinder 4, Mara said. "The ECU thinks it's misfiring because the crank signal is lying." "That makes no sense," Doc said. "It does if the reluctor ring is rotating off index when it's hot. The sensor reads a false position. The ECU sees timing that doesn't match combustion. It logs a phantom misfire." Doc leaned over the scope. The crank waveform wobbled in a rhythm tied to temperature, not load. His frown deepened. He said nothing, but his silence spoke. Tino eased off the throttle. The engine returned to idle. Mara printed the waveform comparison. Cold versus hot. The difference was small but undeniable. "I need to pull the pulley," she said. 12 minutes left, Caleb said. He stood in the doorway, backlit by the shop. Lights. "You'll never make it." "I'll make it if you stop talking." Someone in the crowd laughed. Caleb's face darkened. Mara pushed her cart towards the main bay. Tino drove the truck back and positioned it under a lift. "Get me a pulley puller and a torque wrench," Mara said. Jules appeared with both. Doc grabbed a drain pan. Darla pressed her hands against her mouth. The camera zoomed in on the crank pulley, shiny and perfect under the shop lights. 10 minutes, Caleb said. Mara marked the pulley position with a paint pen. She fitted the puller and began cranking. The pulley resisted, then gave. Metal groaned. The reluctor ring came into view, a toothed wheel inside the pulley assembly. "There's your problem," Caleb said. "Looks perfect to me." Caleb stepped between Mara and the truck. His shadow fell across the engine bay. "Time's up," he said. "You didn't find anything. Walk away." "I have 9 minutes," Mara said. "You have nothing," Caleb said. The pulley's fine. The ring's fine. You wasted an hour chasing ghosts. Jules checked her watch. She still has time. Not on my lift, Caleb said. I need Bay 2 for a paying customer. Tino, bring that Silverado around. Tino froze. He looked at Mara, then at Caleb. His hand hovered over the lift controls. Don't, Jules said. Caleb turned on her. Excuse me? I said don't. Let her finish. You want to keep your job? I want to keep my integrity. The crowd murmured. Doc shifted his weight. Darla stepped closer. Mara felt the room tilt. This was the moment. Everything depended on Jules holding the line. Parts verification, Jules said. Company policy. We need to confirm the reluctor ring matches spec before we release the truck. Caleb's jaw clenched. There's nothing wrong with that ring. Then let her prove it, Jules said. Fine, Caleb said. But if she pulls that pulley and wastes more time, she's banned from every shop I own. And you're fired. Jules nodded. Fair enough. Mara felt her heart hammering. She looked at Jules, whose face was pale but determined. Then she looked at the truck. 7 minutes left. She could walk away and save Jules's job, or she could keep going and risk everything. If I'm wrong, Mara said, I'll walk out and never come back. When you're wrong, Caleb said. Mara selected a longer wrench. She positioned herself under the truck. The reluctor ring gleamed in the work light. At first glance it looked perfect. Machined steel, clean teeth, no obvious damage. See? Caleb said. Nothing. But Mara did not move. She angled the light lower, almost parallel to the ring. Shadows traced the teeth. And there, at the edge, something caught the light. A line so thin it almost vanished. She leaned closer. I need a better light, she said. 6 minutes, Caleb said. You're done. Mara's hand reached for her phone. She activated the flashlight. White light flooded the reluctor ring. The hairline crack glinted back at her. Lights died. The bay plunged into darkness. The scope screen went black. The live stream froze on Mara's face, mouth open mid-word, eyes wide with discovery. What the hell? Someone said. Emergency lights flickered on, casting dim red shadows. Mara stayed under the truck, her phone's flashlight still illuminating the crack. Her hand trembled slightly. She had seen it. The evidence was real. Breaker tripped, Caleb said. Guess that's a sign. Jules was already running toward the electrical panel. Her footsteps echoed in the sudden quiet. Mara heard the metal door swing open. Clicks and thuds followed. The lights stayed dead. Come on, Jules whispered. Come on. Doc pulled out his own flashlight. He moved toward Mara's position. Tino stood frozen, unsure which way to turn. The camera crew fumbled with their equipment in the darkness. This is perfect, Caleb said. The universe is telling you to quit. The universe is telling me you sabotaged the breaker, Mara said. That's a serious accusation. It's a serious crack. The main lights blazed back to life. The scope rebooted with a startup chime. The live stream reconnected, showing Jules at the breaker panel, her hand still on the switch. The chat exploded with questions and theories. 4 minutes, Caleb said. Mara climbed out from under the truck. She held her phone toward Doc. Look at this. Tell me what you see. Doc took the phone. He squinted at the image. His weathered face went still. He zoomed in with his fingers. The crack was barely visible, a thread of darkness across machined steel. I see something, Doc said quietly. What? Caleb demanded. A line. Could be a shadow. It's a crack, Mara said. A hairline fracture in the reluctor ring. It opens with heat, closes when cold. That's why nobody found it. You're guessing, Caleb said. I'm reading the evidence, Mara said. She turned to Jules. I need a new reluctor ring and installation specs. Now. Jules was already typing on her tablet. Her fingers flew across the screen. The chat scrolled faster, split between believers and doubters. 3 minutes, someone said. Mara climbed back under the truck. She needed measurements before anyone could dismiss her find. Doc brought over a dial indicator and a magnetic base. Together they mounted it against the block. Check the runout, Doc said. Cold. Mara positioned the indicator probe against the reluctor ring's outer edge. She rotated the crank by hand. The needle barely moved. 0.003 inches, well within tolerance. See, Caleb said. Nothing wrong with it. That's cold runout, Mara said. I need hot runout. 2 minutes left. You don't have time. Then stop the clock. That's not how this works. Darla pushed through the crowd. Stop the damn clock. Let her do this right. Caleb turned to her. Your truck? Your dime? You want to pay for more shop time? I want it fixed, Darla said. I don't care what it costs. Jules made a note on the work order. Clock stopped. Customer authorized extended diagnosis. Caleb's face went red. He started to argue, then caught himself. The camera was watching. The chat was watching. He forced a smile. Fine, he said. But when she's wrong, I want everyone to remember this moment. Tino stepped forward. How do we heat it up again? Heat gun, Mara said. Controlled heat on the reluctor. Bring it to 190 degrees. Tino ran to the tool crib. He returned with a professional heat gun and a non-contact thermometer. Mara directed him to focus the heat around the reluctor ring, avoiding sensors and hoses. This is ridiculous, someone muttered. The temperature climbed. 100 degrees, 150, 170. Mara watched the dial indicator. The needle stayed stable. Skeptics began to smile. Looks fine to me, Doc said. He sounded almost disappointed. 180, 185. The needle twitched. 190 degrees. The needle moved. 0.005 inches, then 0.006. Beyond tolerance. The reluctor ring was expanding unevenly. There, Mara said. That's your problem. Doc leaned in. His eyes widened. I'll be damned. Could still be measurement error, Caleb said. Do it again, Doc said. Let it cool and measure again. They waited. The metal ticked as it cooled. Mara felt sweat on her back despite the shop's chill. The reluctor ring cooled back to ambient temperature. Mara ran the measurement again. 0.003 inches. Perfect tolerance, exactly where it started. Doc made a note on a grease-stained pad. Heat it again, he said. Tino aimed the heat gun. The temperature climbed past 180 degrees. The dial indicator began to move. Slowly at first, then more. 0.006 inches, 0.007. The ring was drifting off center as it expanded. I've never seen that, Doc said. His voice was quiet, almost reverent. Thermal runout on a reluctor. Never in 40 years. Because you never looked for it, Mara said. Because it's not supposed to happen. It happens when there's a crack, Mara said. The metal expands unevenly. One side grows faster than the other. The ring rotates microscopically off-index. The crank sensor reads false position. Doc nodded slowly. He was seeing it now, the pieces connecting. Tino stared at the dial indicator. Even he understood what the numbers meant. Caleb stepped closer. That's 1/100th of an inch. Doesn't matter. It matters to a crank position sensor, Mara said. These engines time to the degree. 1 degree off at 3,000 RPM creates a misfire the ECU can't predict or correct. You're making that up, Caleb said. I'm reading the spec sheet, Mara said. She pulled up the technical manual on her tablet. Reluctor runout tolerance is 0.005 inches maximum. We're at 0.007. That's failed. Doc took the tablet. He read the specification. He looked at Caleb. She's right. That still doesn't prove there's a crack, Caleb said. Then let me take the ring off, Mara said. Let me show you the fracture under magnification. That requires a special tool we don't have. I'll do it with hand tools if I have to. Darla spoke up. Whatever it takes, do it. Caleb looked at the camera. The chat was turning against him. Comments called him stubborn. Others used harsher words. He was losing control of the narrative. You pull that ring, he said, and you better have proof, real proof, not shadows and measurements. I'll have metal, Mara said. She selected a puller and positioned it carefully. The reluctor ring sat pressed onto the crank snout. Removing it meant precision. Too much force would damage the sensor or the shaft. She worked slowly, applying even pressure. This is taking forever, someone said. The ring shifted, a fraction of an inch, then more. Mara kept cranking the puller. Sweat dripped onto her safety glasses. The reluctor ring came free. Mara caught it before it could fall. The toothed wheel was heavier than it looked, forged steel worn smooth by millions of rotations. She carried it to her workbench under the bay lights. Caleb followed, arms crossed. There's your smoking gun. Looks perfect to me. He was right. Under the fluorescent lights, the ring gleamed. No obvious damage, no missing teeth. The surface looked machined and true. The crowd pressed closer. Phones came out to photograph the evidence. I don't see anything, Tino said. Doc leaned over the ring. He turned it slowly, examining each tooth. His frown deepened. Maybe the crack closed when it cooled. Or maybe there never was one, Caleb said. The camera zoomed in tight. The live stream chat erupted. Half the comments mocked Mara. The other half demanded she admit defeat. Jules stood nearby, her face pale. She had risked her job for this moment. Mara felt doubt creep in. The crack had been so thin. Had she imagined it? Had the stress and the countdown distorted what she saw? She picked up the ring and rotated it under the light. Nothing. Clean metal. Perfect teeth. Well, Caleb said. You want to apologize now or later? Mara's hands shook. She set the ring down and closed her eyes. She had seen it. She knew she had seen it. The crack was real. It had to be real. Otherwise, Jules was fired, and her own reputation was destroyed. I need a better light, she said. You had a light, Caleb said. You had your phone. You saw what you wanted to see. I need magnification and a better angle. You need to admit you were wrong. Doc cleared his throat. Let her try. We came this far. Caleb glared at him. You're taking her side now? I'm taking the truth side, Doc said. If there's no crack, we'll know for sure. If there is, we need to see it. Jules ran to the tool crib. She returned with a lighted magnifying lamp and a work light with a narrow beam. Mara positioned both over the reluctor. Ring. She angled the narrow beam almost parallel to the surface. What are you doing? Tino asked. Shadows reveal fractures, Mara said. You need the right angle. She rotated the ring slowly. The magnifier revealed every machine mark, every tiny imperfection. The crowd held its breath. The narrow beam cut across the reluctor ring's surface at a shallow angle. Shadows formed between the teeth, sharp and black. Mara rotated the ring one tooth at a time. The magnifier showed scratches and wear marks, but nothing structural. Then she reached the seventh tooth. A line appeared. Thread thin, almost invisible, but unmistakable under magnification and angled light. The crack ran along the base of the tooth, wrapped partway around the circumference. There, Mara said. Doc leaned in until his nose almost touched the glass. I see it. Where? Caleb demanded. Mara adjusted the light. The crack seemed to glow in the shadows. Doc pointed with a worn fingernail. Right there, base of tooth 7, runs about 15 degrees around. Tino gasped. Holy! Let me see, Caleb said. He shouldered past Mara and stared through the magnifier. His face went still. The crack was there, undeniable, captured in harsh light and magnification. The camera operator moved in close. The wall screen displayed the fracture in high definition. The chat went silent. Then it exploded. Comments flooded in so fast they blurred. Apologies, congratulations, demands for Caleb to apologize. Shock that 50 mechanics had missed this. That explains everything, Mara said. When the ring heats up, the crack opens. The tooth moves fractionally off index. The sensor reads rotational position that doesn't match the cam. The ECU sees mistimed combustion and throws phantom misfires. How did nobody else find this? Tino asked. Because nobody else checked thermal runout, Doc said. We all assumed electronics or fuel. We assumed wrong, Mara said. She turned to Jules. I need a replacement reluctor ring, installation hardware, and torque specifications. Jules was already searching inventory. Her fingers shook as she typed. We don't stock this part, but our sister store in Westfield has one. 20-minute drive. Get it, Darla said. I don't care what it costs. Caleb straightened. His face was flushed. This doesn't prove anything yet. You still have to install it. You still have to make the engine run right. It'll run, Mara said. Maybe. Maybe not. Doc looked at Caleb. You need to let her finish this. I never said she couldn't, Caleb said. I'm just saying don't count your chickens. Mara photographed the crack from 3 angles. She documented the runout measurements. She saved everything to her tablet. If this went sideways, she wanted proof she had been right about the diagnosis. Who's going to Westfield? Jules asked. I'll go, Tino said. I know where the parts counter is. Take my truck, Darla said. She tossed him her keys. Drive, fast. Tino caught the keys and ran toward the parking lot. His footsteps faded. The bay fell quiet except for the hum of the air compressor. Mara stood over the fractured reluctor ring, her mind already planning the installation sequence. Caleb pulled out his phone. He walked toward the office, his voice low and urgent. Jules watched him go, her jaw tight. What's he doing? Mara asked. Calling someone, Jules said. Probably his lawyer. For what? You just embarrassed him in front of thousands of people. Doc cleaned the crank snout with a lint-free cloth. He was meticulous, removing every trace of oil and debris. His hands moved with practiced care. Mara watched him work. You believe me now? She asked. I believed the measurements, Doc said. I'm old, not stupid. You called my scope a toy. I called a lot of things stupid over the years. Doesn't mean I was right. Darla approached with 2 bottles of water. She handed one to Mara and one to Jules. Thank you, she said. Both of you. We're not done yet, Mara said. You found it. That's more than 50 other people did. The office door opened. Caleb emerged, his face dark. He walked back to the bay and pointed at Jules. You and I need to talk about insubordination. We can talk after the truck's fixed, Jules said. We'll talk now. No, Jules said. We won't. The camera swung toward them. The chat erupted with commentary. Caleb saw the lens and forced a smile. Fine, but this isn't over. It is for me, Jules said, unless you want to fire me on camera. Caleb's smile vanished. He turned and walked back to the office. The door slammed. Mara felt a surge of gratitude toward Jules. The service writer had chosen truth over safety. You didn't have to do that, Mara said. Yes, I did, Jules said. I got a daughter. I wanted to see me stand up for what's right. Doc finished cleaning the crank. He inspected it under light, looking for scoring or damage. Everything looked good. Mara laid out her tools in order. Socket, torque wrench, thread locker, alignment pins. "How long until Tino gets back?" Doc asked. Jules checked her phone. 15 minutes, maybe 10 if he speeds. The wait felt longer than the diagnosis. Mara paced. Her adrenaline was fading, replaced by exhaustion. She had been running on nerves for over an hour. Her shoulders ached. Her hands were cramping. "You should sit," Doc said. "I'm fine." "You look like hell." "Thanks." Doc almost smiled. "That was a compliment. You earned it." Mara sat on a rolling stool and pulled her tablet closer. She documented every measurement, every photograph, every step of the diagnosis. The work order grew into a technical narrative. If Caleb tried to bury this, she would have proof. Jules stood nearby, answering calls. Customers wanted updates. Other mechanics called to ask what was happening. The live stream had gone viral. Thousands watched from across the country. "Your phone's blowing up," Jules said. Mara glanced at her notifications. Messages from techs she had worked with years ago. Offers of support. A few job inquiries. One message from her daughter asking if she was okay. She typed a quick reply. Caleb emerged from the office again. He walked to the center of the shop floor and addressed the camera directly. "Folks, what you're seeing here is a mechanic who got lucky. One lucky guess doesn't make someone qualified." "It wasn't a guess," Mara said. "You threw a theory at the wall and it stuck. That's not diagnostic skill. I measured thermal runout. I correlated temperature with signal degradation. I used data to predict a mechanical failure. That's exactly diagnostic skill." The chat split again. Half supported Mara, half echoed Caleb's dismissal. Comments scrolled too fast to read. Some were vicious. Others defended her with passion. "You know what's funny?" Caleb said to the camera. "This woman thinks she's better than the 50 men who tried before her. That's what this is really about." "No," Darla said. She stepped into frame. "This is about my truck, and she's the only one who found the problem." "Because I let her," Caleb said. "You fought her every step." "I gave her time and tools. You tried to shut off the power." Caleb's face went red. "That breaker tripped. I didn't touch it." "Right," Darla said. She did not sound convinced. The parking lot door opened. Tino ran in carrying a small box. He was breathless, his face flushed. "Got it. New reluctor ring. OEM spec." Mara opened the box. The new ring gleamed, teeth perfect and sharp. No cracks, no wear. She compared it to the fractured original. Identical, except for the damage. "Installation specs?" she asked. Jules handed her a printed sheet. Torque values, thread locker type, alignment procedure. Mara studied it carefully. One mistake now would ruin everything. "Can you do it?" Tino asked. "I can do it," Mara said. She carried the new ring to the truck. Doc held a work light. Mara cleaned the crank snout one more time. She applied a thin coat of thread locker and positioned the new reluctor ring. Mara pressed the new reluctor ring onto the crank snout. It seated with a metallic click. She checked alignment with a feeler gauge. Perfect. Doc handed her the installation tool. She tapped the ring home, careful to keep it square. "Torque spec?" Doc asked. 55 foot-pounds, Mara said. Then 90-degree turn. She fitted the socket and torque wrench. The click came at exactly 55. She marked the bolt head with paint. Then she rotated 90 degrees. The paint mark showed perfect quarter turn. Everything was right. Everything was perfect. "Reassemble?" Tino asked. "Reassemble," Mara said. They worked together, pulley installed, belt tensioned, covers replaced. Mara reconnected her scope and cleared the fault codes. The engine had been sitting cold for 30 minutes. She turned the key. The starter cranked. The engine fired. It idled smooth and clean. The waveforms on her scope danced in perfect rhythm. Crank and cam aligned like teeth in a gearbox. No jitter, no wobble. "Sounds good," Doc said. Mara let it warm up. The temperature climbed. 100 degrees, 150, 170. The idle stayed smooth. She brought the RPM up to 2,000. Still perfect. The crowd began to murmur. Excitement built. Then the engine stumbled, just once, a brief hiccup that made everyone freeze. Mara's heart sank. The scope showed a momentary loss of sync. The engine recovered and idled clean again. "What was that?" Caleb asked. His smile returned. "Sounds like you made it worse." "Air in the system," Mara said, but doubt crept into her voice. She ran the engine again. Another stumble. Smaller this time, but real. The crowd's excitement turned to confusion. Jules looked worried. Doc frowned. "You installed it wrong," Caleb said. "I installed it to spec." "Then why is it stumbling?" Mara did not answer. She watched the scope. The waveforms were almost perfect, but not quite. Something was still off. A tiny irregularity that appeared under load. She increased the RPM to 3,000. The stumble returned. "This is beautiful," Caleb said. "You found one problem and created another." The chat exploded with commentary. Half gloated, half insisted she should keep trying. Mara felt exhaustion crushing down. She had been so sure. The crack was real. The replacement was correct. So why was the engine still stumbling? "I need to run the relearn procedure," she said. "You need to admit defeat," Caleb said. "Give her a chance," Doc said. But even his voice held doubt now. Mara pulled up the relearn procedure on her scanner. The ECU needed to recalibrate its timing maps with the new reluctor. She initiated the sequence. The engine cycled through programmed steps. Idle, part throttle, full throttle, cool down. The stumble persisted. Mara held the engine at 3,000 RPM. She watched the crank and cam traces. They were closer now, almost synchronized. But a microsecond lag appeared every few seconds. The engine would stumble, catch itself, then run smooth. "What are you looking for?" Doc asked. "The timing's still off," Mara said. "Not by much, but enough to matter." She let the engine cool back to idle. The stumble faded but did not disappear completely. She checked the reluctor ring alignment again. Perfect. She verified the timing marks. Perfect. Everything was installed correctly. "Maybe the new ring is defective," Tino said. "It's not the ring," Mara said. "Then what?" She stared at the engine. Something was wrong with her installation. But what? She had followed every step. Torque spec, angle turn, alignment, thread locker, everything by the book. Then she looked at the crank pulley bolt. The same bolt she had removed. The same bolt she had reinstalled. Old hardware. She picked up the torque wrench and tested it. The bolt turned slightly under pressure. It had not held torque. "The bolt's stretched," she said. Doc leaned closer. "What?" "The pulley bolt. It stretched when we removed it. It's not holding torque under heat." "That's impossible," Caleb said. "Those bolts are grade 8 steel." "Grade 8 steel stretches after 20 years and 100,000 miles, Mara said. She showed Doc the torque wrench. He tested the bolt himself. It turned a fraction of an inch. His face went pale. "I've been reusing these bolts for 40 years, Doc said quietly. "And how many phantom problems did you never solve?" Mara asked. Doc said nothing. His silence was answer enough. Mara felt a mix of vindication and sadness. How many trucks had been misdiagnosed because of a stretched bolt? How many mechanics had given up? "I need a new bolt," she said. and the torque spec for proper clamping force. You're not getting another part on my dime, Caleb said. Then it's on my dime, Darla said. Whatever it costs. Caleb pointed at Mara. You installed it wrong. That's not my problem. I installed it to the spec sheet, Mara said. The spec sheet doesn't account for bolt stretch over time. That's convenient. That's physics. Jules searched her tablet. I have a bolt kit in stock. Includes new hardware rated for this application. How much? Darla asked. $18. Get it, Caleb laughed. You're going to blame an $18 bolt for 50 mechanics failing? I'm going to prove it, Mara said. Jules walked to the parts counter. She returned with a small sealed kit. New bolt, new washer. Installation instructions printed on the package. Mara opened it carefully and inspected the hardware. The bolt was longer than the original, with finer threads and a different head design. This is updated spec, she said. The old bolt was superseded. When? Doc asked. 3 years ago, Mara read from the package. Technical Service Bulletin. Updated hardware for high heat applications. Doc took the package. He read the bulletin. His face sagged. I never saw this. Most people didn't, Mara said. That's why 50 mechanics failed. She removed the old bolt and compared it to the new one. The old bolt showed visible stretching in the threads. The new bolt was pristine. She cleaned the threads in the crank snout with a tap. Metal shavings came out, evidence of years of wear. Proper torque sequence is 70 foot-pounds, she read. Then 110-degree turn. No thread locker on updated hardware. That's way higher than before, Tino said. Because the bolt's designed for it, Mara said. She positioned the new bolt and washer. Doc held the flywheel steady to prevent rotation. Mara set her torque wrench to 70 pounds. She pulled smooth and steady. The click came clean. She marked the bolt head with fresh paint. 110 degrees, she said. The turn was longer than before, almost a third of a rotation. The bolt seated with authority. She tested it with the torque wrench. No movement, no flex. The clamping force was solid. Reassemble? Tino asked. Reassemble. They fitted the pulley and belt. Mara reconnected her scope. The engine had cooled again during the work. She turned the key. The starter cranked. The engine fired and idled perfectly. Here we go again, Caleb said. The temperature climbed. 100 degrees, 150, 170. The idle stayed smooth. No stumble, no hesitation. Mara brought the RPM up to 2,000. The waveforms aligned perfectly. Crank and cam moved as one. Sounds good, Doc said. His voice was cautious. Mara increased to 3,000 RPM. The engine pulled clean. No stumble, no jitter. The scope showed perfect synchronization. But the crowd stayed quiet. They had seen this before. They were waiting for the stumble. 190 degrees. 200. The engine ran true. Then a faint hiccup appeared. Barely noticeable, but real. Mara's heart sank. There it is, Caleb said. The hiccup was subtle. A fraction of a second. Most people would not have heard it. But Mara heard it. Doc heard it. The scope showed a momentary voltage dip that coincided with the stumble. That's not mechanical, Doc said. No, Mara said. That's electrical. She followed the voltage trace. The battery was solid. The alternator output was steady. But the dip appeared in the sensor circuit. She traced the wiring harness with her eyes. Primary grounds looked clean. Secondary grounds looked clean. Then she saw it. A ground strap near the bell housing. Paint overspray coated the bonding surface. The connection looked tight, but paint acted as an insulator. A high-resistance ground would cause exactly this kind of voltage dip. When did someone paint this engine? Mara asked. Tino stepped closer. Body shop work. Maybe 6 months ago. They painted the whole truck. They painted over the ground straps. Is that bad? It's creating a floating ground. The sensor voltage drops when current spikes. The ECU sees that as signal loss. Mara grabbed a wire brush. She loosened the ground strap and cleaned the bonding surface. Paint flakes fell away, revealing bare metal underneath. She cleaned the block surface too. Then she reconnected the strap with proper torque. "Try it again," Doc said. Mara started the engine. It idled clean. She brought it up to temperature. 200 degrees. 210. No stumble. No hiccup. The voltage stayed rock steady. The waveforms aligned perfectly. But doubt touched her face. She had chased too many ghosts today. Found too many problems. What if there was one more? What if the truck failed on the road? What if she was wrong about everything? "You okay?" Jules asked quietly. "I don't know," Mara said. "I thought I had it. Then the bolt. Then the ground. What if there's something else? Then you'll find it. What if I can't? You already found 3 things 50 mechanics missed. You're not wrong." Mara looked at the scope. The traces were perfect. Better than perfect. They looked like textbook examples. But her confidence had been shaken. She wanted to walk away. Let someone else test it. Let someone else take the risk. Then she thought about Darla, a woman trying to keep her business alive. About Jules, who had risked her job. About the 50 mechanics who had given up. She could not give up. Not now. "One more test," she said. "Full load, full heat. If it fails, I walk." "And if it works," Caleb asked, "then you apologize." The dyno bay was ready. Tino positioned the truck on the rollers. Mara connected her scope and scanner for the final test. The engine idled at 200 degrees. Coolant temperature stabilized. Oil pressure was solid. "Run it up slow," Mara said. "Hold each RPM for 30 seconds. Tino pressed the accelerator. 2,000 RPM. The engine pulled clean. The waveforms stayed aligned. 30 seconds. No stumble. No jitter. 2,500, Mara said. The engine climbed. The dyno loaded the rollers. Heat poured off the exhaust. The scope showed perfect crank and cam synchronization. Voltage stayed steady. Fuel trims stayed centered. 30 seconds passed. 3,000, Mara said. The engine roared. The dyno loaded harder. The temperature gauge climbed past 210 degrees. The waveforms held. Mara watched for any deviation, any hint of the stumble. Nothing appeared. The engine ran true. 3,500, she said. Tino pushed the throttle. The engine climbed into its power band. The exhaust note deepened. The rollers spun fast enough to blur. 220 degrees. Still perfect. Still clean. Doc stood beside Mara. He watched the scope without speaking. His face was unreadable. Tino held the throttle steady, sweat on his forehead. Jules filmed everything on her phone. 4,000, Mara said. The engine screamed. The dyno loaded to maximum. Heat shimmered off the hood. The waveforms stayed locked together. Crank and cam moved as one. No jitter, no wobble, no voltage dips. The misfire counters stayed at 0. 30 seconds? 45? 1 minute. The engine never faltered. Bring it down, Mara said. Tino eased off the throttle. The engine dropped to idle. The temperature slowly declined. Mara saved the data traces. She queued up the comparison, before and after, side by side. The room stayed frozen. Nobody spoke. They were waiting for the engine to fail, waiting for the stumble to return, waiting for Mara to be wrong. But the engine idled smoothly. Caleb shook his head. It'll fail on the road. Mark my words. The data doesn't lie, Mara said. Data's just numbers. Numbers are truth. She projected the waveforms on the bay TV. Before images showed the jitter, the wobble, the phantom misfires. After images showed perfect alignment. The difference was undeniable. That crack caused thermal runout, Mara said. The runout caused signal distortion. The distortion caused phantom misfires. The stretched bolt prevented proper clamping. The painted ground created voltage drops. All three problems worked together to make the truck fail under heat and load. Doc stepped forward. I watched every step. The data's real. The fix is real. You're both staging this, Caleb said. We're both reading instruments, Doc said. Mara advanced the presentation. She showed the reluctor ring crack under magnification, then the thermal runout measurements, then the stretched bolt threads, then the painted ground strap. Each image told part of the story. This is what 50 mechanics missed, she said. Not one problem, 3 problems, all hidden, all temperature-dependent, all mechanical issues disguised as electronic failures. The camera zoomed on the presentation. The chat exploded with comments. Most were supportive now. Technical questions poured in. Other mechanics shared similar experiences. The crack opened with heat, Mara continued. The reluctor rotated off index. The sensor read false position. The ECU saw mistimed combustion. It threw phantom misfire codes that didn't match real combustion events. How did you figure it out? Tino asked. I watched the pattern. Misfires only under heat and load. Crank signal degraded while cam stayed clean. That pointed to rotating assembly. Thermal runout confirmed it. Everything else followed from there. Doc pointed at the bolt comparison. I've been reusing pulley bolts my whole career. Never knew they stretched. Most people don't, Mara said. The stretch is invisible until you torque test it. The technical bulletin came out 3 years ago. Most shops never saw it. Caleb moved toward the camera. Turn it off. No, Jules said. That's an order. Fire me then, but I'm keeping this feed live. Caleb reached for the camera. The operator stepped back. Jules moved between them. The chat erupted with outrage. Thousands of viewers watched Caleb try to silence the truth. Let them see the engine run, Jules said. Let them hear it. If it fails, you were right. If it works, she was right. Either way, the truth wins. Caleb's face went red. You're done here. Pack your desk. Fire me on camera, Jules said. Show everyone what you really are. The room went silent. Even the air compressor seemed to hold its breath. Caleb looked at the camera. At Jules. At Mara. At the thousands watching. His power was slipping away. Fine, he said. Let's hear the engine. Let's see it fail. Mara walked to the truck. She opened the driver's door and started it. The engine fired immediately. It idled smooth and quiet. She let it warm to full temperature. Then she revved it. Clean. Strong. Perfect. Take it on the dyno, Caleb said. Full load. Let's see it die. Already did that, Mara said. 4,000 RPM for 1 minute. 0 misfires. Perfect sync. Do it again. Why? Because I don't believe you. Mara looked at Doc. The old mechanic nodded. She looked at Jules. The service writer held up her phone, still filming. Mara climbed into the truck. The truck rolled onto the dyno again. Mara strapped it down herself. She connected wireless sensors to broadcast data to the wall screen. Everyone would see everything. No disputes, no arguments, just truth. She started the engine. It warmed quickly, still hot from the previous test. The temperature gauge climbed to 200 degrees. She checked the scope one last time. Perfect waveforms. She nodded to the dyno operator. Load it, she said. The dyno engaged. The rollers resisted rotation. Mara pressed the accelerator. The engine pulled against the load. 2,000 RPM. The note was clean and strong. No hesitation. No stumble. The wall screen showed live data: crank position, cam position, fuel trims, ignition timing, misfire counters, everything broadcast in real time. The chat watched the numbers. 2,500, Mara said. The engine climbed. The dyno loaded harder. The truck vibrated slightly, fighting the rollers. But the engine stayed smooth. The waveforms held perfect synchronization. Misfire counters, 0. 3,000. The exhaust note deepened. Power flowed smooth and continuous. The temperature held steady at 210 degrees. No thermal runout, no signal distortion. The reluctor ring stayed true under heat and load. Tino called out the numbers. Fuel trim plus 2%. Ignition advance 30 degrees. 0 misfires, 0 codes. 3,500, Mara said. She pushed the throttle farther. The engine roared. The dyno groaned under the load. Heat shimmered off the hood. But the data stayed perfect. Every parameter within spec. The truck that 50 mechanics could not fix was running flawlessly. 4,000. The engine hit its power band. The sound was glorious. Clean combustion, proper timing, no phantom issues. The misfire counters stayed at 0. 30 seconds. 45. 1 minute. Still perfect. The crowd began to murmur. Then someone started clapping. Slow at first. Then others joined. The applause built. Even some of the techs who had mocked Mara were clapping now. They were seeing something remarkable. A master at work. Doc clapped loudest. His weathered hands made rough sounds. His eyes were bright. He had learned something today. Something he should have known 40 years ago. Mara brought the engine back to idle. She let it cool naturally. The data stayed perfect as the temperature dropped. She shut it off and climbed out. The applause continued. Caleb stood in the corner. His arms were crossed. His face was stone. He was not clapping. Darla pushed through the crowd. Tears streamed down her face. She grabbed Mara and hugged her hard. The camera caught everything. "Thank you," Darla said. "Thank you. Thank you." "Just doing my job," Mara said. "You saved my business. My drivers can haul tonight. I won't lose my contracts." "The truck's ready," Mara said. "It'll run clean now." Darla turned to the camera. "This woman found what 50 mechanics missed. I'm putting her name on every invoice this truck delivers, every load, every mile. Everyone's going to know who fixed it." The chat erupted with praise. Job offers appeared. Shops across the country wanted to hire her. Her phone buzzed non-stop. She silenced it. Doc stepped forward. He extended his hand. Mara took it. His grip was firm and honest. "I learned something today," Doc said. 40 years in this business, and I learned something new. That takes a hell of a mechanic." "You helped," Mara said. "I doubted you. Then I watched you prove me wrong. That's harder than being right the first time." Tino pulled out his phone. He recorded a short video statement. His hands shook slightly. "My name's Tino Alvarez. I work here. I watched the whole thing. Caleb tried to shut her down, cut the power, deny her parts. But she kept going. She found a crack nobody else saw. She fixed it right. Everything she said was true." He posted it to social media. Within seconds it had 50 shares, then 100. The truth was spreading faster than Caleb could contain it. Jules stood nearby. She was crying too, not from sadness, from relief, from pride. She had bet everything on doing the right thing, and she had won. Caleb finally moved. He walked toward Mara. The crowd parted. The camera followed him. His face was unreadable. He stopped 3 feet away. "You got lucky," he said. "I got good," Mara said. "This doesn't change anything." "It changes everything." Caleb looked at the camera, at the thousands watching, at his reputation crumbling in real time. He turned and walked toward his office. The door closed behind him. The crowd erupted in cheers. Jules grabbed Mara's hand. "We need to talk, outside." They stepped into the parking lot. The afternoon sun was warm. Jules took a deep breath. "I'm quitting," Jules said. "I can't work for him anymore." "You have a daughter," Mara said. "You need the insurance." "I need my dignity more. I'll find another job." "Work with me," Mara said. Jules stared at her. "What?" "I'm opening my own shop. Been planning it for months. I need a service writer I can trust, someone who'll stand up for what's right." "I don't know anything about running a shop." "You know how to stand between me and a bully. That's enough." Jules smiled. Tears fell again. "When do I start?" "Next week. I'll match your pay plus benefits." They hugged. The camera caught that too. The chat celebrated. A story about injustice was becoming a story about justice, about courage, about two women choosing truth over safety. 1 week later, Mara stood in her new bay. The lease was small but hers. 2 lifts, clean concrete, her name on the sign outside. The oscilloscope sat on her new cart. Nobody called it a toy anymore. The red truck pulled into the bay. Darla climbed out, smiling. "Courtesy check. Want to make sure it's still running, right?" "How's it been?" Mara asked. "Perfect. 200 miles. 4 loads. Not one stumble. Not one code." Mara connected her scanner. She pulled up the misfire history. 0 counts. 0 faults. She checked the live data. Everything was perfect. The reluctor ring stayed true. The bolt held torque. The ground stayed clean. "You're good to go," Mara said. "What do I owe you?" "Nothing. This one's on me." "No way. You saved my business." "You stood up for me when it mattered. We're even." Darla left a $100 bill on the workbench anyway. She drove away with a wave. The truck sounded beautiful. Jules walked in carrying 2 coffees. She had quit Caleb's shop the day after the repair. Word spread fast. Other techs followed. Caleb was hemorrhaging employees. His reputation was shattered. 3 calls this morning, Jules said. 2 brake jobs and a diagnostic, all asking for you by name. We're booked? For 2 weeks. Mara's phone buzzed. A text from Doc. He was sending over a customer whose transmission needed diagnosis. A referral from the man who had doubted her. The world was changing. The bay door opened. A customer sedan rolled in. A woman climbed out, holding a worn service history. "Are you Mara Ruiz?" "I am." "I saw the video, the truck repair. I want you to check my car. Nobody else, just you." Mara smiled. She grabbed her scanner. Jules printed a work order. The shop was alive with possibility, with respect, with engines that finally trusted the hands tuning them. She connected her scope and began the diagnosis. The waveforms danced across the screen. Beautiful. Perfect. True. The steady sound of engines filled her bay.